I'm here today to answer the age-old question. Which one is better, the corruption or the crimson? Now, when it comes to me, I've always liked the crimson more than the corruption. But the corruption, of course, also has its advantages. And that's why I'm here today to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of both. But both sides give pretty interesting boss fights. Of course, I have overpowered stuff, so it's pretty easy to kill them. But while I kill them, let me talk about them. I myself like to fight the Eater Worlds much more than the Brain of Cthulhu. It poses a much more interesting fight than the Brain of Cthulhu because, like, it's a worm and it breaks off in increments. The Brain of Cthulhu is just a big brain that you kill his minions and then he dies. And then in expert mode too, the Eater Worlds shoots stuff at you. But the Brain of Cthulhu just makes it so there's more than one of it. But I do like the armor from the Crimson much more than I do from the Corruption. But the expert mode item of the Eater Worlds and the Brain of Cthulhu are very different, and the Eater Worlds is far, far better. The sword, I don't even really use the sword of either of them. Is normally, by my time in the game, I have a better sword, and I'm just saving it for, well, the Knight's Edge. Now on to the Brain of Cthulhu fight. If you're wondering, both of these worlds were normal. I'm just using my YouTube world and the world I've been streaming on, because, well, I don't have very many worlds, because I used to play Terraria on an old computer, and I got a new one, so most of my worlds are deleted. But yeah, these fights are quite easy, because, well, look at my stuff. But of course you don't have this stuff whenever you first fight them. You have much worse stuff. But I don't find this fight to be nearly as interesting. I find it to be much easier. But I like difficult. I like challenges. So it's not really that cool. It's cool, just not as cool as the Eater Worlds. I greatly prefer the Eater Worlds fight over this one. But it's not a bad boss. So we're just gonna kill this guy one more time after this. So then I have the tissue samples to create the armor and the tools and stuff, and I'm going to compare them. One more time. Come on, brain. His little minions are kind of annoying though. I never really like them. Because sometimes they get hidden in the underground and it's really hard to kill them. So I guess there's a teeny bit of difficulty. Now what's interesting here is the fact that I got many more tissue samples than dragon scale or shadow scales from the two bosses, which is pretty weird because I would not think there'd be much of a difference. But I guess the Crimson is far easier to get the other components to make the armor and stuff. Maybe we could make a little over 100 bars on each, or a little under 200. And now let's craft the armor. If you recognize this tree, that's because I'm just crafting in my stream world, because I don't really have a personal world. I kind of record everything. So let's make this, and the corruption one, and then the light's bane, and the blood butcher. Is there anything else? I guess that's all, because I wouldn't really craft anything else anyway. Actually, I guess we can do the fishing poles, even though the fishing poles don't really matter that much. Okay. Corruption armor or crimson armor? Let's first compare the crimson armor. Now right off the bat, I already like what the crimson looks like better than the corruption. Okay, let me take the wings off. But look at that. It's pretty cool. It has a little red behind it. And it gives us a set bonus of greatly increased life regen. So that's a pretty good one. It also gives us 19 defense in total, the entire set together. So that's a decent amount of defense for whenever you get it in the game. I always craft this armor. I never skip out on it. because it's good armor. Now to the corruption armor. This one, it doesn't look bad, but I also don't like it. Like, it's not the best. In the set bonus is 15% increased movement speed, which I don't really care too much about how fast I am. This suit definitely does increase how quick you are because it's 7% more melee speed for your weapons. And then the 15% set bonus is definitely a good bit increased. But I'd honestly take the regen over speed. Now to the swords. There's a big difference here. The Murderous Blood Butcherer, 35 melee damage. The Murderous Light's Bane, 26 melee damage. That is a pretty big difference in damage. Almost a freaking... It's a 9 plus damage for the Blood Butcherer against the Light's Bane, which is pretty crazy to me. I mean, I've always preferred this one, its look, because it's just cooler. But the stats on what Murderous gives it is different for both. Plus 9% damage, plus 6% damage, plus 8% speed, plus 5% speed. Now to the pickaxes. The Nightmare pickaxe actually has faster speed than the Deathbringer pickaxe, but it has 5% less pickaxe power. So it's actually mines slower than the Deathbringer pickaxe, even though it says very fast speed instead of fast speed. Because this one, the Deathbringer has 70%, the Nightmare has 65%. And surprisingly, the fishing rods actually make a difference. The Crimson fishing rod is 22% fishing power, while the Fisher's Souls is 20%. A 2% difference in the fishing poles. This difference is apparent in the bows as well. This tendon bow is damaged and still does more damage than a keen demon bow. But with the axes, the Bloodlust Cluster and the War Axe of the Night both have the same axe power. But the Bloodlust Cluster is actually slower than the War Axe of the Night, which is pretty interesting. So the corruption wins in the axe. With the hammer, they're actually the same, but I think the breaker might be faster speed or the same speed if it was not heavy. But with the yo-yos, the Crimson still comes on top with a 2 more melee damage than the Malice. Now to how much these bars sell for. One Crimtane bar sells for 40 silver. One Demonite bar sells for 32 silver. So Crimtane actually sells for more than Demonite. 67 Crimtane sells for about 5 more gold than 67 Demonite bars. This is also present in the tissue sample and the shadow scale. One tissue sample being 1 silver and 50 copper, a shadow scale being 1 silver. One Crimtane ore sells for 9 silver, one Demonite ore sells for 8 silver. Now, I really don't want to have to go out and collect the different books. Wow! Just killed a Nimbus and got a Mystic Nimbus Rod. But I really don't want to have to go collect the spells, but I will tell you about the spells. The Crimson spell is the Golden Shower, which it shoots out yellow liquid. It's basically pee, and it decreases whatever you hit its defense by 20%, which is pretty good. The corruption one is the Crystal Storm, which I have on my YouTube series, and I don't know why I don't think it's really that good. I also want to tell you about the drops by the bosses in Expert mode. The Brain of Cthulhu drops the Brain of Confusion, which has a chance of confusing an enemy whenever it hits you, which is just horrible. It is the worst. Now, the Corruption has a very, very good accessory, the Worm Scarf. When equipped, it takes away 17% of damage from whatever damage. So, let's say you take 100 damage, and you have 0 defense, it will take off 17 of that because it's 100 times 0.87 or 0.83, so you'd only take 83 damage out of that 100. That's with 0 defense. I think. If I got that wrong, well then I'm stupid. Please do not attack me. So here's my conclusion. The Crimson is far better in normal mode, and the Corruption excels in expert mode. The Crimson stuff does, most of it is slightly better, and it sells better, but the Corruption has a far better boss. Also, in my opinion, the Crimson biome is far better than the Corruption biome, like in its generation. So in my opinion, the Crimson is a lot better in normal mode. The Corruption is like super duper good in expert mode. So if you're ever making an expert mode, pick the Corruption. Please, the Worm Scarf is so good. That is the only reason the Corruption is good in expert mode. Otherwise, the Corruption would not have won this. The Crimson still does win the normal mode though. If you're going normal mode, go Crimson. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like button and subscribe, because as it turns out, 77.77% of the people that watch my videos are not even subscribed. So can you maybe hit that subscribe button for me, please? Anyway, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.